Good morning, County Council. I would like to call to order this council meeting of September 25th, 2025. At this point in time, as you're able, please stand and join us in the singing of O Canada.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you please?
Councillor Mackey sends his regrets today. Councillor McKay. Here. Councillor Carleton. Councillor Pringle. Councillor McQueen sends his regrets today. Councillor Allwood. Councillor Nielsen. Councillor Patterson. Councillor Dickert. Councillor Kentner. Councillor Keaveney. Councillor Body, I believe, is joining us later this morning. Councillor Gregg. Councillor Milne. Councillor Dobreen. Warden Matrosovs. Present. Councillor Boardinghouse says his regrets today. Alternate Councillor Hope. Councillor Eccles. Councillor Hutchinson. Right. So we have all members in attendance today with the exception of Councillors Mackey, McQueen, Boardinghouse, and Body.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let us begin by acknowledging with respect that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation, the people of the Three Fires, known as the Ojibwe, the Odawa, and the Potawatomi nations. We give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, collectively known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, the traditional keepers of these lands and waters since time immemorial. In our south, the traditional territories of the Six Nations and of the Grand River and the Haudenosaunee. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of truth, reconciliation, and friendship with all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. At this point in time, I'd like to put out a call if there are any declarations of interest for this council agenda. Seeing no hands raised, we'll move to the adoption of the minutes. It's recommended that the minutes of the County Council meeting and the Committee of the Whole meeting dated September 11th, 2025, and the resolutions contained therein be adopted as presented. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Keaveney, seconded by Councillor Dobreen. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. It's also recommended in item 6B that the closed session Committee of the Whole meeting minutes dated September 11th be adopted as provided. May I ask for a mover? Moved by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor Kentner. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that motion is carried. We do not have any closed session matters in council this morning, nor reports, so we'll move to the bylaws. It's recommended that bylaw 5249-25 and 5250-25 and 5251-25 be introduced and taken as read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the warden and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Number 1, 5249-25, a bylaw to provide tax refunds for eligible heritage properties. Number 2, 5225, a bylaw to authorize the acquisition of certain lands in the municipality of Grey Highlands for the new Feversham paramedic base. And number 3, 525125, a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of council. May I ask for a mover? Moved by alternate Allwood and seconded by Councillor Pringle. Any discussion? All those in favor? That motion is carried. And next, we will move on to news and celebrations and looking to staff first. Okay.
Thank you, Warden Matrosavs. So I'm excited to note that this Saturday, September 27th, is the official grand opening for the brand new Durham Paramedic Base. So from 2 to 4 p.m., we'll be hosting a ribbon cutting and open house that's all about celebrating the incredible work that the paramedics do and the investment that council has made in emergency care for our communities. Remarks will kick off at 2:05, followed by a tour of the facility, an opportunity to meet the paramedic team and check out some of our vehicles and equipment up close. It's a hands-on, behind-the-scenes look at how we're improving response times and supporting frontline healthcare. This base is a big step forward, not just in infrastructure, but in how we serve people across Grey County. So I highly encourage County Council and residents to join in celebrating this exciting milestone, and we hope to see you there.
Thank you very much, CAO. I look forward to attending that with my granddaughter, actually. And next we'll go on to Director Hoy. You have an announcement.
Yes, I just want to congratulate Alan Kenwell out of our Clarksburg Patrol. He had previously won the Grey Bruce truck rodeo, not rodeo, rodeo, which was 36 operators. So Al won that and he got to go to the provincial finals yesterday in Lanark. And although he didn't win, we're very proud of Al. It's hard to make the finals. And so there was 49 drivers there from across the province in Lanark yesterday. It's not that often we send somebody to the finals. So we're very proud of Al for going to compete yesterday.
Excellent. And congratulations to Mr. Kenwell. And with that, we'll move on to Director Myers for an announcement.
Thank you so much. Good morning. I think Brittany's going to help me with a quick little video here, but we wanted to share the good news that last Thursday, we were very proud to host the Sydenham Fall Fair at Sydenham campus. So it is the last remaining school-run agricultural fair in all of Canada. There were more than 800 students who attended that day. All the educational exhibits happened in the gym, and then the fair outside that you're going to see the video of here, that was livestock, pet, and zoo shows all in the green space. It was a great day, lots of energy at Sydenham campus.
Thank you. Wonderful tradition in the fall fairs of our county. And with that, we will go to Director Morrow.
Thank you. I wanted to share the news that this week on Tuesday, we had our Employee Appreciation Day. And as part of that, we celebrate long-term career milestones within Grey County at every 5-year increment. And we celebrated 126 staff members on Tuesday afternoon. And I just wanted to detail those that have been with us the longest within those milestones. And that is celebrating 30 years of a career with Grey County from Paramedic Services, Diana Graham. From Lee Manor, our long-term care home in Owen Sound, Lisa Barfoot and Lorna Walker. From Rockwood Terrace, our long-term care home in Durham, Aaron Grant. And from the Transportation Services Department, Chris Coleman. Celebrating 35 years of a career with Grey County from our social services team is Joni Johnson. And at 40 years of service with Grey County from Paramedic Services was Robert Bell. We thank all of them for their dedication and service to Grey County.
Thank you, Director Morrow, and it was a pleasure for the Deputy CAO and the CAO and myself to be able to attend to help with that presentation of those certificates. It is an incredible, not just an incredible mark of their own dedication, but it's also so aspirational to see among the newer comers to our staff that people come here, they stay here, they grow their careers professionally, and they truly see our staff and our council here as a family. So it's wonderful. Okay, so with that, I'd like to put it out to the County Council floor for news and celebrations. We'll begin with the Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Next Tuesday, of course, is National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. And in conjunction with Southeast Grey Community Health Center and Junction Community Initiatives, there will be an event at the United Church in Dundalk from 5 till 8 to mark that occasion, and all are invited. There's going to be a supper at 7 o'clock. I'm not saying that's why I'm going, but it doesn't hurt to have supper. But all are welcome to attend. It'll be a great event, and I welcome everyone to attend.
Thank you, Deputy Warden. It's not just dinner, is it? It's fellowship, it's friendship, it's gathering together at a table. So absolutely, we should celebrate those moments together. And we'll go to Councillor Keaveney.
Thank you, Madam Warden, and good morning, everyone. And I just wanted to announce that next weekend, October the 4th and 5th, is our annual Apple Harvest Craft Show in Meaford. This is one of the top artisan shows in all of Ontario, with over 200 vendors, many new ones this year. On a Saturday, it will be open from 10 until 6, and on the Sunday, although the power is supposed to be out until noon, and we're working on that, but from 10 until 4 are the scheduled hours at the Community Center, the Curling Club, and the Arena in Meaford. This event's been going for over 40 years in our community, which is pretty incredible, and they've donated over $1 million into the community to our hospital and other projects. So it's pretty special. So come on out and start your Christmas shopping in Meaford next weekend. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go over to Councillor Carleton.
Thank you, Warden, and good morning, County Council. I would just like to somewhat reflect on an awards banquet for Inner-Township Fire Department last Saturday night, and Deputy Mayor Keaveney joined me as well at that. We had 4 of our volunteers celebrating 20 years of service, 2 celebrating 15. Deputy Mayor Keaveney gave a special award to Jeff Fries, his life-saving skills that he used at an event they were at. And a second outstanding service award was presented to the 24 firefighters who responded to the silo collapse rescue last October. So it was a wonderful evening, a great way to say thank you to all of our volunteer firefighters, and thank you to Shirley for being there with us.
Thank you. And we'll go over to Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you very much, Warden Machtosoff. Grey Highlands last, but certainly not least fall fair of the fall fair season is this Saturday, September 27th at the Rockland Fall Fair. You are welcome to come out and participate in our annual pie making contest, not contest, I guess, auction. All our county and council members are welcome to make pies. We auction them off at the end of the night. If you don't want to make a pie, feel free to come and bring your wallet. That's even more appreciated. But it should be a good time had by all, and hopefully we'll see somebody out. Sorry, it's competing with the paramedic base open.
Okay, all right. And we'll go to Councillor Hope and then to Councillor Body after that.
Yes, good morning. Just wanted to let everyone know that the Tunnel Blue Mountains will be holding its open fields in celebration of Active Farm. So there's 6 different locations, and they do include locations in Meaford, including Copper Bridge, which is not far from my family's farm. So it's a free event. It's a wonderful family event. And there's a lot of focus on cider this year. So it's from 10 till 4 o'clock on this coming Saturday. And I hope everyone will be able to join us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you can go to exploreblue.ca if you want to get those details and those locations. And we'll go to Councillor Body.
Thank you. Warden, sorry for being a little late. I was just with the students and teachers at the École Saint-Dominique Savio School, French school, raising the Franco-Ontarian flag. It's an annual event in our community flagpole. This is the 50th anniversary of the Franco-Ontarian flag. Franco-Ontarian community goes back 400 years because it goes back to 1613 when Samuel de Champlain traveled through and mapped this part of the area, including Georgian Bay and the area near Owen Sound. There was also a French village approximately 100 years ago between Owen Sound and Leith that was quite a community, probably French trappers way back when that stuck around. So this is one of my favorite mornings because this is a culture that sings, and all the kids sing French songs, and it's amazing. So it's worth celebrating. Thank you.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Et félicitations à our whole community, our whole Francophone community across our county. Councillor DeBreen.
Thank you, Warden, and good morning, County Council. Those listening, Holstein is celebrating its first Oktoberfest on Saturday, October 27th. There will be a cornhole tournament for those who enjoy that, starting at 3 p.m. with live music at 4, dinner at 6, and it is at the Holstein Optimist Hall, Holstein Fest, this Saturday, September 27th. Tickets are on sale. If you are interested, let me know and I can give you the contact information.
Thank you very much. And I'll just look to see if there's a, we'll go to Councillor Eccles.
This works. Thank you, and I would very much like to take up the offer from the Deputy Warden. His pie eating capabilities are tremendous, so he'll probably be in Rockland buying up pies. He's well noted for that, for sure. This Saturday, before you come to the paramedic opening at 2 o'clock in West Grey, as the CEO has mentioned, the last that I understand of the local plowing matches. The Bentic plowing match is on, just south of Elmwood, about half a mile, the first corner south of Elmwood, off the county line, and in about a half a mile on the 8th concession of Bentic. Great support for our agricultural community. As you know, it was very successful. We had the Canadian Championships in West Grey back at the end of August. It was tremendous and sent a local individual, Brian Davenport, won the competition and will be representing Canada at the Worlds next year. And I just forgot where they are next year. I know that they were in Czechoslovakia this year. Anyways, tremendous. But an aspect of our agricultural community that was there. 10 o'clock, the plowing will start. So we have a chance to help out and endorse our support for our agricultural community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'll just look around the horseshoe. I don't see any further hands. Excellent. So lots happening in our county, lots to enjoy, lots of reasons to cross the boundaries and visit another municipality. So with that, then we will look for a motion to adjourn. May I have, I'll move by Councillor Patterson, seconded by Councillor McKay. All those in favor? And council is adjourned. We'll give a moment for the technology to switch over. Okay, thank you. I'd like to call to order this committee of the whole meeting of September 25th, 2025. At this point in time, I'll put out a call. Are there any declarations of interest for this agenda? Seeing no hands raised, we will carry on. Business arising from the minutes. Okay, we will move on. We do not have any delegations today. And next, we will move on to the determination of items requiring separate discussion from section 6. In the consent agenda, there are 4 different items. So I will ask for if there are any that need to be pulled to examine at the end of today's agenda. Councillor Eccles.
I'd like to pull 6C. Just to make sure that we've got that clear.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, then it's recommended that the following consent items be received and that staff be authorized to take actions necessary to give effect to the recommendations in the staff reports, and that the correspondence be supported and received for information as recommended in the consent agenda. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Moved by, excuse me, moved over here to my right. Sorry about that. We'll need a seconder. And seconded by the Deputy Warden. Any discussion? All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Okay, so we will then visit 6D at the end of our agenda. Thank you. That allows us to move on into our items for direction and discussion. So the first one is item 7A. And it's recommended that staff report PDR CW 5725 regarding surplus lands for housing, site preparation, and Darris King activities be received, and that $130,000 be included in the proposed 2026 budget and be funded from the one-time funding reserve to fund select site preparation and de-risking activities for the 2 county-owned properties in Markdale and Durham. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Nielsen. Seconder. It's now on the floor for discussion, so I would like to invite our Senior Policy Planner Buckton up to introduce the topic. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here today. So I think Brittany's just going to pull up, there we are, some slides for us. Great. So very briefly today, I know it's a very comprehensive report addressing what we'd like to do with respect to these lands, but I've just captured that recommendation here as well. Next slide, please. So we just really wanted to provide a bit of a visual anchor for you. I know we've got some key maps in the report, but I've also included some aerials here. So just wanted to identify that, we have been having some discussion regarding surplus lands for a number of years now. We've been progressing as staff to do investigations around 2 potentially surplus parcels. That would certainly be a future discussion that we would have with council around their fate. But essentially, we've been evaluating them with respect to their housing potential and what we might need to do to prepare those lands to be readily available for future construction, either by the county in partnership or by others through an offering. So we do have a smaller parcel in Markdale and then a larger parcel of about 20 acres in Durham that we've been investigating over the past 2 years. Next slide, please. Okay, and just a little bit of a zoomed in view here. So with respect to the work that we are requesting funds or budget consideration for, with respect to the Markdale site, that would include archaeological assessment, an environmental assessment and filing of a record of site condition, and some site servicing work. We've been fortunate to be coordinating together with transportation services staff. There is some upgrade happening right now to Grey Road 12, just abutting this parcel as well. So as noted in the report, there are some elements of that site preparation that we think will fall under that project and that cost umbrella. But this would identify those additional items that we would be looking to really establish the principle for residential development on the lands and remove some of the uncertainty. With respect to the Durham site, we would be looking there for some funding to support us in identifying stormwater management pond sizing. We do understand there will be a fairly large stormwater facility required on that land. And that's a bit of a challenge in terms of identifying the potential for those lands just in relation to the footprint that facility might take up. So we do want to do a little bit of additional work to just identify how much of a footprint that will take to help us understand what remains for development potential. And then I think there's some conversation to happen as well regarding a stormwater outlet for that site as well. So certainly happy to address questions, but what I would say is that we have put forward these activities not just on our own assessment, but with some input as well from the development sector. We did have an opportunity to meet with some folks in August to have a discussion with 4 nonprofit developers as well as some of the housing operators locally around kind of what makes the site attractive or what rules the site out for them to consider around partnership or an offering. And so really it is this de-risking and then providing that certainty around potential that allows a project to go forward if we were to surplus them. But regardless of what we decide to do with respect to those lands in future, we anticipate that this information will be good for us to have and would represent a good investment in those lands and furthering their potential for future use. So I'll leave it there, but like I say, happy to address any questions.
Okay, so do we have any questions? Look for hands. We'll go to Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you very much, Ward Matchersoft. Just two questions. My first question regarding the Markdale site. Within the report, the Durham site suggested the possibility of up to like 200 units because of the size of the property. Is there an estimate to what we could possibly obtain out of the Markdale site for one? And two, just in consideration of that estimate, Grey Highlands recently rezoned a property very near to this one with approval for up to a 6-story building. So I'm just wondering if that's taken into consideration in terms of the type of housing, the accommodations, and then maybe the number of units we could potentially get out of that site.
Wonderful. And through you, Madam Warden. So, with respect to the number of units, I do think it will depend a little bit on the form of building that might be considered for the lands. With consideration to that adjacent 6-story building and the trail corridor kind of going in between them, I do think we anticipate that probably a tall multi-story building tucked right up on the other side of the trail would not be so desirable. But perhaps there would be opportunity to push something kind of along the lot line or look at even a stacked row house type of development along the side. When we looked at it, we looked through the lines of minimum development density based on our policy. And so that would be 25 units per net hectare. So for this site, I think it's around 18 units minimum. But I would anticipate probably something more in the range of 40 to 60 would be realistic for viability on the site.
Thank you for that answer. And through you, Ward Microsoft. So second question on the Durham site. When calculating the stormwater pond, it's kind of the same conundrum is where you have to presuppose the form in which it's going to take. So just my understanding of the land use would be if you're trying to do subdivision style, you might need a larger stormwater pond than if you did permanent style. So I'm just wondering in terms of county staff's estimates when calculating the stormwater management pond, the form style it might take.
Wonderful. And again, through you, Madam Warden, thank you so much for that question. So with the Durham site, there has been some prior investigation completed. So with respect to the Rockwood Terrace build, that parcel was all one piece to begin with. So we do have some prior hydrogeological work that's been done, including boreholes across the site. So we do have some understanding of the hydrogeological situation there. There was initially a proposal to place the drainage for Rockwood Terrace on this parcel. So we've seen a preliminary design, but there were some assumptions, I think, tied with that might not hold true in development of just this parcel. They did provide us with a volume estimate of what was expected to need to be held. And so it's really translating that volume estimate into a spatial estimate to understand the footprint piece. In terms of the form of development for those lands, you're right, it's a larger parcel. There's the potential maybe for multiple road frontages with that as well. So I could see it could go a number of ways. We could see some traditional subdivision type of development in a portion of that lands. It could have room for a multi-residential as well. So I think that one has the potential to do a few things with. We have talked about, does it make sense for us, for example, to forward a lot plan to try and divide it out into parcels? I'm not sure that's necessarily the way that we would recommend going at this point, but I think the information around the storm pond will certainly inform us in terms of what we've got to work with, and we can reevaluate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And certainly, as you mentioned, what we're looking at approving right now will add value to the property. It will give us that information so that we can do those further explorations down the road. Okay, we'll go to the Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Madam Warden. Thank you, Liz, for the presentation, or the report rather. Why on the Durham site are we not proposing to do an archaeological phase 1 at least to, because I would think that would be a risk to any developer as to what might or might not be there. Please.
Try that again. The microphones are always tricky. Thank you so much for that question and through you. So in that case, the archaeological is already completed. So as part of that early work, the archaeological was completed for the whole site. That report found no items of cultural heritage value, and they've recommended no further study for the site. So thankfully, that one's off the list already. Check.
Okay, any further questions? Yes, we'll go to Councillor Eccles.
Thank you, Madam Warden, and through you to Liz. I think I'm going to probably state the obvious here that working
with, as Councilor Nielsen, some of your concerns on the stormwater. That portion of the town of Durham, West Gray has a 10-year projection. There will be work being done on Sadler Street as you get closer to Highway 6. We have had some stormwater issues in the past there. So I think it is in collaboration with this type of project of what that's going to add to it. So that's being addressed, certainly going forward. Yeah, it won't be tomorrow, but it will start in 2026.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Okay, not seeing any then. I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you, Senior Planner. Okay, so next we will move on to item 7B. It's recommended that CAO CW 1525 regarding a court security contribution agreement and costing implications be received, and that staff be directed to fund the anticipated 2025 budget shortfall from surplus realized in the overall corporate services budget, or if none exists, to be financed from the one-time funding reserve, and that the warden and the clerk be authorized to sign the court security contribution agreement, and that staff be directed to prepare a letter under the warden's signature to the Ministry of the Solicitor General and the Ministry of the Attorney General advocating for additional funding to support municipalities adhering to the security directives required by the province. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor DeBreen, seconded by Councillor Body. It's now on the floor for discussion. Welcome, CAO Schertzer.
Thank you, Warden Matrosavs, and good morning, County Council. So the purpose of this report is to provide Council with an update on the court security contribution agreement as directed by County Council back in July of 2024. This agreement was developed to address the funding gap between the City of Owen Sound's actual court security costs, which is called the Court Security Prisoner Transportation Costs, and the provincial CSPT grant. So what the difference between what the province funds and what the actual costs actually are. The goal of the previous direction that was provided to Council back in July 2024 was to ensure the city is not unfairly burdened with costs for a service that benefits the entire region. Under the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019, municipalities are mandated to provide court security and prisoner transportation services through their local police services. The CSPT grant from the province is intended to support these services, but it's based on expenses from 2 years prior typically. It's calculated as a proportionate share of a fixed provincial funding pool. This model often results in underfunding as it does not reflect current costs or what's actually happening on the ground from a security cost perspective. The court security cost contribution agreement allows Grey County to fund the difference between Owen Sound's net CSPT costs and the provincial grant. So some of the key terms in the agreement is that the city is to submit an annual financial report to the county by April 30th of each year. The county will verify that report and provide funding within 60 days of council direction. The agreement renews annually and can be terminated if a new agreement is enacted with the province, and the city would be responsible for notifying the county of any overpayments. In 2024, the anticipated CSPT overage was approximately $250,000, and that was what was included in the 2025 budget. The actual shortfall, as reported in the 2024 annual financial report, is just under $370,000. So this results in a budget overage of just under $120,000 for 2025. Staff recommend funding this overage from any surplus that's realized in the corporate services budget or the one-time funding reserve if there's no surplus that's available. Based on, we've had obviously lots of discussions with Owen Sound Police Services and city staff about why there's some overages, and I'll just note that even in the 2024 report, we noted that there's fluctuations that can happen with court security costs, and last year being one of those years. Based on Owen Sound Police Services, they noted the rationale for some of those cost increases last year was hybrid court operations still require in-person bail hearings. There was 4 new part-time special constables began training in December 24, increasing staffing costs. Prisoner transports increased by 265% from 2023 to 2024. There was a court backlog from COVID that they were still dealing with, and it's led to more cases and longer trials. And they noted there's been violent crime and homicide cases have increased, requiring dedicated security personnel. They also noted virtual hearings have declined, leading to more in-person appearances and higher resource demands. And bail hearings now require in-person attendance for consolidation purposes. In terms of, we also outline in the report that there's been new provincial security directives. So we wanted to flag this for council that on August 11, 2025, the Ministry of the Solicitor General implemented new security directives. Single public entrance for all court premises were part of those directives, mandatory screening with metal detectors or wands, and that an armed officer be present on every floor of court facilities. Owen Sound Police Services began implementing these measures at the POA court in the Grey County Administration Building, which will result in increasing staffing and costs. We are clarifying with SolGen regarding these new directives. So there's still some further discussions that we have to have with SolGen regarding this and try to better understand what those costs will be with respect to these new security directives. So we'll be bringing back further information as part of the budget process once we've clarified that information. We just wanted to flag that for this particular report. These new directives will likely result in further cost increases in 2026 and beyond. The impact will be greater if the directives do apply fully to provincial offence courts, in addition to Superior and Ontario courts. So as noted, staff will continue working with OSPS, OPP, and SolGen to assess the financial impact and to clarify these new directives, and we'll update council during the budget process once we have further information. Based on those new directives, however, staff recommend that correspondence be sent to SolGen and the Ministry of Attorney General requesting that all additional court security costs resulting from the new directives be fully funded by the province. So the recommendation is that this report be received, that staff be directed to fund the anticipated 2025 budget shortfall from surplus realized in the overall corporate services budget, or if none exists, be financed from one-time funding. The ward and clerk be authorized to sign the court security contribution agreement that was agreed to previously by council back last year, and that staff be directed to prepare a letter under the warden's signature to SolGen and MAG advocating for additional provincial funding to support municipalities based on the new security directives. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll put it out then to County Council, beginning with Councillor Dobreen.
Thank you, Warden, and through you to the CAO. I just wanted to say I absolutely support the recommendation. And with the AMO board meeting tomorrow or tonight and tomorrow, we will be discussing this as well, and would encourage that letter be copied to AMO. I'm confident that my Roma caucus colleague across the horseshoe, Councillor Nielsen, and I will raise this at our caucus as a concern, and the figures that you are outlining are very helpful. So thank you for that. The timing is perfect, or not.
And thank you to Councillor Dobreen and to Councillor Nielsen and Councillor McKay as well, when he's sitting with Good Roads to share those voices and be part of that discussion. So thank you. That's very helpful. Any other questions? Okay, I don't see any further questions then. I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you very much, CAO. So next we'll move on to item 7C. It's recommended that report LTCRCW 1925 Capital Funding Program and Ministry Survey be received, and that staff be directed to complete the Ministry of Long-Term Care survey by September 29th, 2025, indicating Grey County's readiness to potentially develop the approved 62 long-term care beds at Grey Gables, and that action be taken prior to County Council approval as per section 26.6B of the procedural bylaw, and that staff be directed to undertake updated cost forecasts and any other applicable studies for the potential development of a 128-bed new home at Grey Gables to be funded from the one-time funding reserve, and that staff be directed to bring forward a report before March 26, outlining the updated budget impacts and a draft development agreement for council's consideration. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Nielsen, seconded by Councillor Carlson. It's now on the floor for discussion. Welcome, Director Cornell.
Thank you very much, Warden Matrosovs. Good morning, County Council. As the Warden has indicated, I'm in front of Council today to present this report to discuss the Ministry of Long-Term Care's capital funding program and their recent request for operators to complete a redevelopment readiness survey. And so I'm going to go over some of the background. There's been a lot of moving parts on this topic over the past number of years. So in 2019, Grey County submitted applications to the Ministry of Long-Term Care for two major long-term care projects: the Rockwood Terrace redevelopment and expansion to a new 128-bed facility, and Grey Gables redevelopment from a 66-bed Class A facility to a new 128-bed home on the same property, with the existing building repurposed as an assisted living retirement home. Both applications were approved, and the province allocated 62 new beds to Grey Gables. That's 128 total beds minus the 66 existing. Staff have confirmed that the new beds are intended to be part of a new standalone facility and not an extension of the current building. Due to the scale of both projects, Council prioritized Rockwood Terrace, which is now under construction and represents Grey County's largest capital project to date at $96 million. On February 23rd, 2023, Council deferred a motion regarding Grey Gables pending completion of the Rockwood Terrace tender process. With construction now 25% complete, there's an opportunity to reassess the financial feasibility of the Grey Gables redevelopment. So looking at the capital funding program and specifically around the ministry survey, the new capital funding program offers up to 85% funding for new beds on a maximum per bed cost of $436,000. I just want to note that Rockwood Terrace is not eligible for reconsideration under this program. That was part of our delegation at AMO, and we've spent some time confirming that that is the case. The province has committed to adding 30,000 new long-term care beds, and this construction funding program is designed to support that mandate. In late August 2025, the ministry released a survey to assess which operators with previously approved but unbuilt beds can proceed in a timely manner. The survey outlines the following development timeline. The survey response deadline is September 29th. Executed development agreement needs to be in place by March of 2026, with a construction start deadline no later than March of 2028. Grey Gables' existing 66 Class A beds meet the current design standards and are therefore not eligible for the redevelopment funding under the construction funding program. The 62 new beds are eligible for the CFP funding. Funding for the existing beds will need to be sourced through alternate mechanisms. The ministry survey presents three options. Option one, proceed with development planning, which would mean the county is opting to maintain the 62-bed allocation, and council would be directing staff to explore redevelopment options. So updating cost estimates, concept designs, site analysis, initial funding may be sourced from long-term care reserves or surplus to do that work. And this positions Grey County to meet ministry timelines and secure construction funding, the CFP funding. Option two is to withdraw from redevelopment. That would mean releasing the 62-bed allocation back to the province, and it forfeits future funding and development opportunities at Grey Gables under this CFP program. Option three is to defer the decision until the Rockwood completion. This would mean requesting the ministry to maintain the 62-bed allocation and provide further information in 2027. I do want to note for council, the risk here is that the ministry may rescind the allocation due to a lack of commitment. Staff recommend option 1 to proceed with the development planning and submit a survey response confirming Grey County's intent to execute a development agreement with the province by March of 2026. This agreement would support the potential construction of a new 128-bed home at Grey Gables, with construction beginning no later than March 2028. To support this approach, staff will engage external consultants to review existing project plans and perform any applicable studies and site analysis, to update the cost estimates. Those cost estimates that we have in place are from 2018, 2019. A revised cost estimate draft development agreement will be brought to council for review and approval prior to submission to the ministry. And upon confirmation of provincial funding, staff will initiate detailed planning and design phases throughout 2026, followed by a procurement process in 2027 and groundbreaking in 2028. In looking at the financial and resource implications, want to flag a number of areas. Significant additional work will be required should council support the staff recommendation to bring forward updated cost estimates and to complete the applicable studies and site analysis. It's recommended that any costs to complete this work be funded from one-time funding. In 2019, the estimated cost for the project was approximately $37 million, based on a per bed cost of $280,000 from a recent comparable build. Rockwood Terrace, our new 128-bed facility and a direct comparator, was procured in 2023-2024 at a total project value of $96 million, equating to a per bed cost on the overall project costs of approximately $750,000 per bed, an almost 170% increase in price from the 2019 comparable. Under the new capital funding program, the province may contribute up to $370,600 per bed, which is 85% of the grant cap. In addition, the county qualifies for up to $500,000 of additional funding to support design costs, which is a new funding opportunity for municipal and not-for-profit operators that's a feature of this construction funding program. Based on Rockwood, it's anticipated that costs will exceed the provincial cap, and so the county might anticipate a full provincial grant of approximately $23,477,000. Based on the Rockwood costs of $96 million, this would leave a balance of approximately $72,522,800. In percentage terms, based on these assumptions, the total provincial grant would be approximately 24% of the total cost. It's noted that these costs are high-level estimates based on Rockwood Terrace and do not account for inflationary pressures between the time of report and tender. One of the key next steps, if council supports the staff recommendation, is to refine these cost estimates. Assuming a similar approach to Rockwood was taken and that the balance of funds was funded through debenture, this would add to the county's long-term debt. The amount of debt a municipality can carry is subject to maximum limits that are established by the province, and the annual payments to service debts may not exceed 25% of the municipality's own source revenue. This is known as the annual repayment limit, or ARL. Grey County has established a policy to limit the ARL to 10% or less. Based on the above figures and other commitments, staff anticipate that there is capacity to assume this magnitude of debt within that 25% provincial limit, but that this would incur a period where the ARL to meet debt repayments exceeds the county target of 10% or less. In your package, there is a concept plan drawing of the proposed build that was included in the original proposal submitted to the Ministry of Long-Term Care in 2019. And I know that was a lot, and I'd just like to summarize some of the key points. This report does not commit Grey County to building at this time. What it does is position us to respond to the ministry's request for readiness and to begin the necessary due diligence required to work on this project, the financial forecasting, the feasibility studies, planning work, all of that information to inform a future decision. So if council directs and approves the recommendation presented, the next steps for staff would be to undertake that work, to update those cost forecasts and any other applicable studies, prepare a follow-up report that would come to county council well before March of 2026 that would include that updated budget information and a draft development agreement for council's consideration. And so that I will leave it at that and hand it back to you, Warden Matrosovs, for questions.
Thank you very much, Director Cornell. So we'll put it out to council, committee of the whole members if they have any questions. Okay, we'll begin with Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you very much, Warden Matrosov, and I'll do more of a comment than a question. Yesterday, County Council had its Budget and Finance Committee meeting, and during that conversation, we talked about operational efficiencies. This report today shows an idea of how we can move forward with Grey Gables, and I think there's two options before Grey County. The conversation about whether or not Grey County wants to have 3 is ended. The conversation about what type of home we're going to have at the Grey Gables site is what's before us. To move to a 128-bed facility is a significant difference in operational efficiencies. That's presented by the data coming from Lee Manor, from Rockwood Terrace, and is before long-term care community management. The difference is the Grey Gables bed or home as it stands now may not be operationally efficient, but it is a desirable living facility for the residents of that site. And so I don't think there's a wrong answer here for Grey County in terms of whether we move towards a new facility, but as to just a decision as to do we go for operational efficiencies or lifestyle for the residents that exist? And so just more of a comment as to what we're doing here.
Okay, thank you. Look around. We'll go to Councillor Carleton.
Thank you, Warden. Just a question about what the wait list status is there. What's the potential for filling that home if we go ahead with the build there?
Thank you for that question, and through you, Madam Chair. I did have those waitlist numbers handy for the Town of Blue Mountains Seniors Fair last week, but that was so last week. But I can confidently say that the waitlists are lengthy, that people are waiting 3 months to more than a year to be able to move into one of the Grey County homes. And I don't foresee an issue in terms of occupancy at 128 beds.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go to Councillor Dobreen.
Thank you, Warden, and through you. Thank you for the report. It was very easy to follow. Guess my question, just for myself or for anyone listening, is that we're prohibited from adding on to the existing 66 beds to make it 128 beds. We can add on 128, a new facility, and create an assisted living facility, but there's no funding for the requirement to blend the two homes or the beds. We can't. So the province is saying if you're going to have a 128 bed facility, you can't add on to your existing beds. You have to create a new facility, but we're not going to give you funding for the conversion of the 66 beds to the new facility. That's my part one. And my other question then, do you anticipate that the converted facility to assisted living would help significantly offset those costs?
Great, thank you for those questions, and through you, Warden. So we'll start with part one regarding the blending of the funding and the opportunity to add on. So staff's understanding is that this is a readiness evaluation based on proposals that were submitted in 2019. And so we did reach out in the past number of years, I think, to look at what the options were. And the ministry response was that we need to stay true to the proposal that was submitted. If there is an interest to do something different, it would be a separate application under the construction funding program. So we're not prohibited from adding on. It would mean starting at the application process with a new application. We have guaranteed these 62 beds are they've been approved by the province, guaranteed in that the proposal was approved. Pending we meet all of these milestone steps, it will meet the criteria for the funding. And that is all my understanding in support of the mandate of 30,000 new beds. So that, CAO, Sir, did you have anything to add? No? Okay. And so moving to the second question around the assisted living, offsetting the costs, what we know that is something that we would be wanting to look into and get new numbers, new information in that report that would come before March of 2026. What I can say from historical research on that, when we were working through that option for the Rockwood Terrace redevelopment that did include assisted living portion originally as part of that campus, we were able to have it break even, to not impact the levy and cost additional money, but we weren't able to have it generate a revenue based on our operations. Are there other opportunities? Perhaps, but that's the information that I can share today based on the research that we did.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go to Councillor Councillor McKay first and then to Councillor Keaveney.
Yes, Warden, through you, we had a tour of Rockwood Terrace yesterday. It's going to hold a lot of people at one time. We don't know when that place will be full, and it's very hard to estimate. Like I sway towards option 3, just to the fact that we're going to be in debt for a while with Rockwood Terrace. Do you want to go further in depth? We know every year when we set a budget, there'll be so much money put towards Rockwood Terrace because it's long term. Now, if we're going to do Markdale, it'll be the same thing. So right off the bat on your budget, you're going to be paying debt. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that comment. So we'll go over to Councillor Keaveney.
Thank you, Warden Matrosovs. I'm also worried about the debt. So I just wanted to confirm, first of all, if I may, Director Cornell, so completing this survey does not commit future councils to the rebuilding of Grey Gables at this point. It would just provide us additional information. And do we know off the top of our heads, if we did go forward, you mentioned that would take a debt capacity of more than 10%, but less than 25. Do we have any sense if it's closer to 10 or closer to 25 if we did go forward with the build?
Okay, thank you. And I can start with the first one. I thought I would be giving someone some time to sort out the details of the second part of the question. Thank you, and through you, Warden Matrosovs. Correct. This report does county to building at this time. What it commits us to is responding to the survey to say that we are continuing to do our due diligence in working towards redevelopment.
To you, Warden, and just further to what Director Cornell indicated, it provides us with the opportunity, as the director indicated, to respond to the survey deadline, which is fairly tight deadline of early next week. to say that we're continuing, but it allows us to do that further analysis and then bring back further information to this council prior to that March 31st, 2026 deadline, which is when we would have to enter into an actual development agreement with the ministry. So it gives us that period of time. It is subject to obviously the direction of council today. And that's where staff are recommending option 1 to come back with that further analysis so that we can provide that information to council. With respect to the debt borrowing ratio, again, that analysis will determine how much we think, based on at least a refined cost estimate of what that 128 bed facility would look like on the existing Grey Gables site. So that's we won't know until we do that analysis of what the exact numbers will be. I think we could give you ballparks and maybe turning it over to our finance staff but it's tough to say at this stage in terms of what that percent will be. We just know that it'll be over our current policy threshold of 10% that council has set. So that would have to be potentially revisited by council in terms of prior to and as part of potentially entering into a development agreement in March 2026 next year. Oops.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go next then to Councillor, Deputy CAO.
My apologies. Information comes flowing in quickly when we're in meetings like this. So based on the costs within the report, Director of Finance has indicated it would be around about 13%. So we would be about 3% over our policy set at the minute.
Okay, thank you for sourcing that information for us, and we'll go to Councillor Greg.
Thanks, Jen, for the report. And, I'm sitting here just entertaining everyone's comments and thoughts. Yeah, we did have that budget meeting yesterday, and we went through the long-term capital planning, and we realized that while we are not at the bottom end of the spectrum in terms of investing in our assets and operational investment, we're not at the top end, we're somewhere in the middle. So we perform well with our comparators. That said, in the last 3 years locally, there was a new long-term care home built in Owen Sound, and this is no slight to staff whatsoever. But that private home build in Owen Sound was effectively 50% the cost of Rockwood Terrace. And you have to question, at what level can we continue to build out and add new assets? I have one line here written down, and it's optimizing our current assets. We know that Grey Gables afforded the opportunity to build an extension. I do understand that, we removed the assisted living portion of Rockwood Terrace because it had clambered up to around $125 million, I think, when we clawed it back. It's different when you're constructing new versus even rehabilitating an existing footprint. So if you could maybe make a business case that you break even on building new with assisted living, you're really going to struggle to perhaps use the same business case to show that you're going to break even on rehabilitating an existing 35-year-old property. You just don't get those same efficiencies. You have higher costs. I think whatever pathway gets us back to, if we have to resubmit another application to optimize the current Grey Gables to 128, that's the pathway that we need to choose and pursue. Another 128 building plus the assisted living is just an amount of debt that continues to go in front of this council and future councils. And it just prohibits. Those are tough discussions we're having yesterday, budget. And the more debt you continue to add on, those discussions just get harder and harder. And maybe none of us will be here to have them, but it'll be brutal discussions for future councils on what you can afford to provide for your residents. So I think I did lean towards option 3, the one line I had underlined was part of a new standalone facility, not an extension of the current building on page 2. And the question then is, why is that there? I think you kind of explained it because it needs a new application. But I think that's the pathway we need to pursue, is that new application to get those 62 beds and pursue the expansion to optimize Grey Gables, not 128 plus whatever it might cost to add the assisted living. I don't think we can afford it.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further comments? I see a finger pointing. Oh, yes. Sorry, Director Cornell.
Thank you, and through you, Warden Matrosovs. I wanted to just flag that the per bed cost to build is a difficult number to nail down without doing this research and these assessments that staff are suggesting would be part of a report coming back. And part of the reason for that is that we're rarely comparing apples to apples. So the Owen Sound building was not green space. It maybe had services already. It maybe didn't require earthworks, so just as an example. And as we were working through the process for Rockwood Terrace, doing very similar work, trying to find comparators. So there'd be a building happening in the Arnprior area, but they were being attached to a hospital that already had existing kitchen and laundry. So that had an impact on the cost per bed, for example. So just to share that with council, that those are the items that we are currently working with information from 2019 and in the height of the pandemic. Having the opportunity to gather more recent current information and bring that back will facilitate a discussion that has more useful and relevant information.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to Councillor Dobreen.
Thank you. Through you. Just one more question then. Through this evaluation that you're proposing, option 1 to continue to plan and reevaluate, does the province allow us to build a 62-bed facility adjacent to? Would that be something that would be explored and could come back as part of that planning? Just as, I'm not asking for an answer right now because we don't know what the province is going to do ever, but I'm just wondering if that would be something that would be explored as an option when it does come back to council.
Through you, Warden, and thank you for that question. Depending, obviously, we'll take the direction from council in terms of if council wants that to be part of the analysis. As Director Cornell indicated, based on previous conversations and correspondence with the province, that will be a full new application. So there's the potential risk there that the current bed allocation of the 62 beds would be potentially lost. But for sure, if council directs us to include that as part of the analysis, if that's part of, say, option 1 or a version of option 1, in terms of looking at both a 128 bed facility plus or a 62 bed facility, recognizing that triggers a new application and a new funding model. And there's no guarantees that we might get that 62 bed allocation as a result of that application.
Okay, we'll go to Councillor Dickert and then over to alternate Councillor Allwood.
Thank you, Warden Matrosovs, and thank you, Jen. During our meeting yesterday, there was one of the questions was the allowance that we get from the province operating once the facility is up and running. So if we add 62 beds to our stock, what kind of impact is that going to have on our levy going forward? Because my understanding was we were not getting reimbursed to the amount that it costs us.
Thank you. And through you, Madam Chair, I just want to clarify in terms of operating or the actual build.
This would be the operating after it's up and running.
Thank you for that clarification. So there is still a levy impact to operate Rockwood Terrace and Lee Manor. What we do see is efficiencies in operating 128 beds compared to the 66 beds. So a lot of funding is per resident day, per resident month, per resident. And so there is opportunities for efficiencies of purchasing items, of the funding that comes in. So for example, infection prevention and control is managers is a good example. The province introduced funding to support the hiring of those positions in long-term care. When there's 150 beds or 128 beds, often the funding is enough to support a full-time an FTE. When there's 66 beds, there's enough funding to support a part-time FTE. And so then comes the discussion in operations. We discuss with Committee of Management, are we able to secure and recruit someone part-time? Then if we're not, then we look at we're required to have that position on staff, but aren't able to recruit. So then there becomes a potential levy impact to be able to recruit someone full-time where the funding only supports part-time. Those are the kinds of barriers when when it's a smaller number of residents. The other challenge with Grey Gables in terms of efficiencies is that the home areas are 22 residents per home area, where the maximized efficiency, which we're building at Rockwood Terrace and we see at Lee Manor, is 32 residents per home area. And that allows for a sufficient staffing complement to support the residents in an efficient way. When there's 22 people living in a home area, you still need that base number of staff to support the residents, but you don't have the number of residents and the funding that comes along. Does that help?
Yes, it helps, but I guess the reality is when you add more people, if you're not being funded at the level that it costs you to have those people, there is going to be additional operational costs going forward when you add 62 beds.
Yes.
Okay, next we'll go to the Deputy Warden.
Thank you, Warden, and thank you, Jen, for the report. The amount of, yeah, it was fairly brief too, but the amount of potential debt and how it could impact the operations of this county overall concerns me. So I'm inclined to support option 3. The demographics of the province and indeed of Canada would indicate that we're going to need more long-term care beds well into the future, for the foreseeable future. And I get the risk that the ministry may rescind the allocation due to lack of commitment. I would challenge anybody from the ministry to come here and stand here and say that this council and this staff are not committed to long-term care in Grey County. Our staff have moved heaven and earth to provide new beds in this community. The number of meetings associated with door handles alone would prove that this group is committed to long-term care. So the repayment ability for the current build in Durham is already pretty much built into the budget. And we've shown that we can afford that. It's a stretch, but we can afford it. To pour more debt onto that repayment ability, that risks not being able to build a bridge somewhere 5 years down the road. So I'm inclined to think that I would dare the ministry to pull those bids back. I don't think Paul Vickers would come here and say, you need to do this, otherwise we're gonna pull those beds back. No way. I don't think he would, and he shouldn't. So I'm inclined to support option 3.
Okay, thank you. And, oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over. I went to that direction and forgot to finish on the left here. So alternate Aldwood, please go ahead.
Thank you, Warden Matrosov. I mean, I think option 1 gives us the opportunity to revisit the actual costs per bed in today's economy. I mean, Councilor Gregg mentioned the private facilities cost per bed. Director Cornell mentioned, you know, the apples to apples comparison and the difficulties in determining what those costs are. What option 1 does is gives this council an opportunity to know in today's economy what those potential costs would be. We're not committing to the project at this point. We're committing to refining our estimate of the cost per beds. There's no doubt, as Councillor Milne just mentioned, that the need for beds and the need for assisted living is a real concern. Not just in Grey County, there's competition for those beds across the province. So I believe the risk with option 3 should not be minimized. I think option 1 does not commit us to the project. It gives us better information. The concern about the long-term debt and the RL situation, I think it was mentioned 13%. There's that significant difference in the cost of those beds could potentially bring it back down to within our approved policy. But again, option 1 gives us better information, does not commit to moving the project forward, and allows council to make an informed decision. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Councillor Gregg.
I'd like to make a motion to split the vote, please, because parts 2 and 3 are very much intertwined in the recommendation.
Okay, so Councillor Gregg, could you just please articulate to the clerk out of the paragraphs that have been moved and seconded, which ones you would like split?
1 through 4, I think, is appropriate for this, as opposed to any amendments hitting the floor. I think it's clear to split the vote initially and then introduce amendments.
Okay, so Councillor Gregg, what we would like then is a motion to divide. So I will look for a seconder for that. May I ask for a seconder? Okay, it's seconded by Councillor Eccles. So we'll give the clerk a moment to put that up on the screen so everyone knows what they are voting for. Okay, so we'll give a moment for it to come up on the screen, but I can read it out. That the motion be addended to strike clauses. Oh, no, sorry. There we go. Okay, that the motion be divided into 4 clauses. That is simply the motion that is on the floor, moved and seconded. But for the sake of everyone knowing what they're voting on, I'd like to see it up on the screen as well. There we go. Maybe in a bigger font. Okay, so that is what we are discussing at this point in time. Any discussion on the amendment that is before us to split it? Yes, CAO.
Thank you, Warden. Depending on obviously council's direction on clause 2, as well as potentially then clause 3 and 4 probably need to be together just based on the tight timelines that we're under. Again, depending on the direction that's provided by council with respect to any amended motions that may come about for clauses 2 and 3. So I'm just raising that because 3 and 4 are fundamentally linked in terms of meeting those timelines, depending on the direction that council provides. That makes sense.
Okay, so perhaps what Madam Clerk, would it work then that we keep the motion to amend in 4 clauses, but when we get after we voted on the first 2, then we'll pause and see if we need to combine 3 and 4? Okay, so we will have that flexibility if we do it that way. Okay, any other discussion on separating these clauses and voting clause by clause? Okay, I don't see any hands going up then. I'll call that vote. All those in favor of the amendment? And that motion is carried. Okay, so we will now look at them each individually. And again, it would be helpful if we could have that up on the screen. Thank you. Okay, so we're there. Before we get into any of the votings of these, was there any final discussion as a whole? Okay, and just to recap, Director Cornell, as you introduced at the beginning, as we talk about these various different options, that there's obviously good dialogue going on here that you can take away in terms of the future report, the kinds of questions. Oh, okay, just to hold on a moment, Councillor Arkles. Sorry, there's just movement going on back here. Okay, we'll just wait a moment there. So this will inform the future report that's going to be coming. You have mentioned that we're not making any decision here, that this does not commit us in any one way or another. It does respond to the readiness so that we can do our due diligence and respond to the province the way that they're asking, whether or not we like what the province does in terms of this or how we articulate our commitment. That aside, they've given us homework to do. We have to respond to that. It would, though, this does give us the time and space to do the preliminary work and put together a future report that will help inform a future decision. Did I encapsulate that correctly? Okay, thank you. All right, so with that then, let's visit the clauses individually. We have, the first one is that report LTCR CW 1925 Capital Funding Program and Ministry Survey be received. This is, oh, sorry, yeah, and I am going back to Councillor Eccles, but I do want to clarify that all four of these clauses are still moved and seconded by the original mover and seconder, but I did see a hand go up when there was some staff interaction over on this side, so I'll just look to Councillor Eccles. Did you have a comment?
Thank you. And further, we're taking this motion, and as I read it in number 2, says readiness for potential development. We talked about something about what the debt load is going to be. Right at the present moment, we have 319 beds. Somewhere around the potential of the tax levy dollars, there's somewhere between $5 to $10 million a year from the levy goes in to support that. In the ballpark for that? So with $5 million, 319 beds, for quick math, it's about $15,000 per bed that we subsidize those beds. If it's obviously 10 million, it's closer to $31,000 per bed per year. Last time these conversations come up around long-term care and everything else, I didn't have any gray hair, but that was a number of years ago. I've developed a little bit more since. I suspect that I'll develop a lot more if this conversation goes much further. 62 more beds isn't going to get us any operational efficiency. Lee Manor was redone, refurbished to get operational efficiencies. And we really haven't. It continues to go up at the rate of inflation for what the county puts into beds. Another 62. The debt to build a 128 bed facility is tough to swallow. But it's going to be the ongoing support of that. I think that's where Councillor Dickert was going, to put that against and the repayment of that debt. Conversations around here, and we all are concerned that the federal government has put themselves into so much debt. Our grandchildren, when they're in these facilities, will never see it paid off. And efficiencies that could be got if that money hadn't been borrowed. Our province has been even worse in my mind, about accumulating debt over the last 20 years. And that's been under two different governments. So I'm not favoring one over the other. And the previous one in the 90s was probably even worse again. I'm having difficulty. We've got to vote on number 2. And number 3 and 4 are the ones that are saying, give us the information. Number 2 is already saying, we're going to tell the province that, yes, we're ready for this. I'd like to see us vote ahead of that. At least get some numbers before we go and tell the province and fill out this survey. Yep, we're going so far down the rabbit hole here, boys. We can't get back out of it. And then have question 10 years later around this horseshoe. How do we find enough not to build a bridge, but to even put in a culvert? You won't need to worry about that in 10 years, Pat, but it'll be something that your legacy's left with.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to look to Director Cornell. She'd like to address any of that. So the question is the challenge of voting on clause 2 when we don't perhaps know what might be out there in terms of clause 3 and 4. You did say that we are directed to respond to the survey, but it does not commit. So do you want to just address the comments that were made by Councillor Eccles? Oh, we'll go to the CAO for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Warden. This goes back to my previous comments in terms of depending on the direction of council with respect to clause 2 and how then clause 3 and 4 then potentially play out. As the warden indicated, and Director Cornell indicated, we do have to provide a response to the province by September 29th in terms of the current bed allocations of 62 beds as it relates to Grey Gables. So as noted in the report, there's 3 options that are laid out in the report. My recommendation is that council consider those 3 options. If council's not supportive of the options being put forward or is being recommended, then I would recommend council then consider the other 2 options, because then that will provide the direction that staff requires in order to respond back to the survey that's due on Tuesday or Monday or whatever day that is. So that would be my recommendation at this stage, because then it clearly then identifies how we're going to be responding to that survey. As noted, there's potential risks as it relates to options 2 and 3. There's potential a lot more work to be done as it relates to even the staff recommendation of option 1 to do that further analysis or bring that information back to council. And so depending on, again, the direction from council, my suggestion would be to look at the 3 options within the report to provide direction as it relates to, I'll say, what clause 2 looks like.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? We're looking at voting on clause 1, which is to receive the report. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded by the original movers and seconders, and we are now I'm going to call the vote on that the report LTC RCW 1925 Capital Funding Program and Ministry Survey be received. Okay, I'll call that vote. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Okay, so we now sit. Okay, so the clerk has advised that this would be a good point for us to take a break, because we're also being conscious of the rest of the day and the rest of the edition. But Director Cornell, perhaps you need a break at this point too. So we'll do our 10-minute. If we can be back at 22, please, then we will come back in 12 minutes. Thank you.
And then if anyone.
If I could just call our council members back to the table, thank you. Okay, I have the word from technology that we are good to go after our break. And at this point in time, then I would just like to take a moment to defer to the deputy CAO if there's any clarity he would like to provide on this next consideration, which is clause number 2.
Thank you very much, and to you, Madam Warden. So just for clarity, recommendation number 2 in the report, in essence, if that fails, it's a direction to staff to not respond to the survey. So recommendations 3 and 4 are therefore mute. So if recommendation 2 fails on the floor, we will not be responding to the survey on Monday.
Okay, thank you. Now, was there a question from Councillor Gray? Yes.
Yes, thank you. And I'd like to introduce an amendment to clause 2 that staff respond to the ministry survey representing option 3 as council's direction.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, and the second part is that you wish for it to be recorded?
And a recorded vote if there's a seconder.
Okay, so while that's coming up on the screen for us, I will put the question out. Is there a seconder for the amendment that Councillor Gregg has put forward? Councillor McKay is seconding. So we'll give a moment for it to come up onto the screen. Sorry, I can't read from the back of my head, so they're just putting it in front of here for me. Wasn't a trait that I developed acutely as a teacher to see everything from the back of my head. I always had good ears though, Councillor Eccles. Okay, Madam Clerk, that's good. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. The amendment to the motion reads that the motion be amended to strike the words Grey County's readiness to potentially develop the approved 62 long-term care beds at Grey Gables and insert that staff request the ministry to maintain the 62 bed allocation and provide further information in 2027. Okay, and okay, it's the provide further information is the staff directive, not the ministry. Correct? Okay. All right. So with that, let me ask for a staff response in terms of should this motion pass, what would that mean? Let's do the if and the just so we understand, because we have broken this particular recommendation into its 4 components. Who on staff would like to begin? CAO?
Thank you, Board. Should this amended motion pass, and then the fully amended revised motion clause 2 pass, then looking at clauses 3 and 4, like this provides staff then with enough direction to respond to the survey response. Clause 3 and 4 would essentially be then tabled, essentially, or what staff would recommend is table those clauses 3 and 4 because they essentially become redundant at this point in time. We don't need to proceed with the analysis at this time. We don't need to proceed with them bringing back further information in order to hit that development agreement deadline of March 2026. Again, going back to what was indicated earlier by staff, if this amended option two were to proceed, as noted in option 3 in the report, the ministry may rescind the allocation just due to lack of commitment. So that is the potential risk, and just wanted to again flag that for council's awareness.
Okay, so for clarification, should this amendment pass, the part where we say that we request the ministry maintain the 62-bed allocation and provide further information in 2027, although we know the commitment and we have certainly demonstrated the commitment to the province may just simply say that means you're not ready, so we're going to move those 62 beds out of this region. Okay, all right. So with that, this particular amendment is now open for discussion. We'll go to Councillor DeBreen.
Thank you. And through you to whomever can answer. We are requesting the ministry to maintain the 62-bed allocation and that the ministry provide further information in 2027.
Sorry, that was the question that I asked in terms of the grammar. So the intent of the motion is that it's staff provide the further information. I understand why you're asking for that clarification.
Through you, Warden, I would take that as that staff, through further direction from council, would need to provide further information to the ministry in 2027. But at this stage, if this again amendment clause were to pass, we would respond to the ministry at this stage to say we would request the ministry to maintain the 62-bed allocation, and we will provide further information in 2027 once we have further information at that time.
Okay, just before I go to the follow-up, Madam Clerk, I'm going to ask that you just insert staff provide further information so that there's no question. Okay, Councillor DeBreen.
So it'd be staff providing further information to the ministry in 2027. Do we have an opportunity in replying to the survey to explain the nature of why until we actually finish our Rockwood Terrace redevelopment, so that they know that we have a desire to pursue, but we just cannot commit at this time?
Through you, Madam Chair. So the survey has limited fields, but there is an opportunity to articulate barriers and challenges. So those barriers and challenges could be listed there. And I just wanted to make sure that I'm clear as staff that the option 3 is that we will provide further information on direction from County Council to the Ministry of Long-Term Care in 2027. So there are limited fields, but there is an opportunity to note barriers and challenges.
Okay, we'll go to alternate Hope.
Yes, thank you. This is very difficult, especially since I'm a relatively new arrival here, but in the town of Blue Mountains, we've been dealing with the ministry about long-term care beds. And what I have learned is you don't want to risk the beds. And what I've heard from the CAO is that is the risk that we're taking right now, even though we're trying to cover it with the motion. We are risking not moving forward, and I'm being governed by that and the experience that I've had at the town of Blue Mountains. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And are there other comments? We're going to go to alternate Councillor Allwood and then over to Councillor Carleton.
Thank you, Warden Matrosoff. Just for clarity, if we went with option 3, does that take us out of this capital funding program timeline? We wouldn't be eligible.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'll take that one. That's hard to say. So we don't know how quickly the province will respond. If we tell them we're interested in the 62-bed allocation, we have to now wait for the province to tell us what they'd like us to do with that allocation. We do know that the next milestone they've laid out in this grant round, though, is March 2026. And, you know, unless the province responds very quickly and we're able to come back before council and receive direction very quickly, it's going to be very difficult for us to get the background work done in order to inform that, to meet that March 2026 deadline. So assuming that it takes some time for the province to come back to us, we would have a very, very short amount of time to meet the next deadline in the capital funding.
Follow up if I may. So it adds another element of risk to move in this direction. Thank you.
Yes, the CAO has confirmed that is correct. An extra element of risk. We'll go to Councillor Carlton.
Thank you. So that was part of my comment, was about the element of risk, and do we really want to risk losing that allocation at this point when we don't have all the information yet? But it means if we risk losing that and not having the redevelopment go forward or a new build go forward at Grey Gables, we continue to run those beds less than operational efficiency. We've got 22 beds in each unit, where we've been told that 32 get some efficiency and saving on costs. So I just hesitate to lose the ability to get that information going forward on what everything would be before we make a decision. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go to Councillor Keaveney.
Thank you, Warden Matrosovs. And just as a matter of information for County Council, I did ask our Deputy CAO at break about our current ARL, and I'll turn to Niall, and if you would share that with County Council.
So through you, Madam Warden, thank you for the question. I was able to confirm with Director Spicer that our current ARL, including the full impact of the current ongoing work at Rockwood Terrace, is around about the 7% mark.
Yes, 7%. Okay, other questions on this amendment? Okay, I don't see any other comments or questions from regarding this amendment. So we are going to vote on the amendment that the motion be amended to strike the words Grey County's readiness to potentially develop the approved 62 long-term care beds at Grey Gables, and instead insert that the ministry request that staff request the ministry to maintain the 62 bed allocation, and staff provide further information in 2027. We've heard it, we've discussed it, it's been moved and seconded. There was a request for a recorded vote. Madam Clerk, please proceed.
So thank you. Councillor Mackey is absent today, so that's been indicated on your sheet. Councillor McKay. In favor. Councillor Carlton. Opposed. Councillor Pringle. Opposed. Councillor Allwood. Opposed. Councillor Nielsen. Opposed. Councillor Patterson. Opposed. Councillor Dickert. In favor. Councillor Kentner. In favor. Councillor Keaveney. In favor. Councillor Body. In favor. Councillor Gregg. In favor. Councillor Milne. In favor. Councillor Dobreen. Opposed. Warden Matrosovs. Opposed. Councillor Hope. Opposed. Councillor Eccles. In favor. Councillor Hutchinson.
In favor.
So that motion was carried 49 to 43.
Okay, carried. So therefore, we're now going to have a look at clause 2 as it has been amended. And as that gets transposed into the new clause 2 that we will now be voting on, I will look to the Deputy CAO now to review with us what happens if this motion carries, what happens if it fails in terms of our response to the ministry, and what happens after that. Thank you.
So thank you, and to you, Madam Warden. So assuming this carries, we will respond to the survey on Monday the 29th. confirming that we're interested in using our 62 bed allocation, but are unable to commit to what exactly that looks like and the timelines laid out. We will then await for the ministry to respond to us before coming back to County Council to seek further direction on that one, which will involve that follow-up in 2027, we anticipate, to the ministry. At this point, I believe, as the CAO has indicated, it would be prudent to table the third and the fourth recommendations in the report.
If this motion passes. If this motion fails, then where does that put us in terms of actually responding to the report? I will look at the CAO if you want to just so people are clear what they're voting on.
So I guess if this amended motion were to fail, then we would need to still seek further direction from committee in terms of responding to the survey. Because at this stage, then we wouldn't have any direction in terms of how we were to respond to that deadline survey of the 29th. Oops.
Okay, so we're now back to discussing clause 2 as it has been amended. Discussion? Okay, I'm not seeing any further hands for discussion, so I'll call that vote. All those in favor? Okay, could you just keep your hands raised for me? Okay, thank you. That motion is carried. Okay, so as per the recommendation from the CAO, it would be worthy of now tabling clause 3 and 4 because of the change that we've made to clause number 2. And what I can do is I can put the call out for unanimous consent. Is there anyone that disagrees with tabling clauses 3 and 4 for a future discussion at a future point in time when we follow through with the decision we just made? Not seeing any hands up in dissent, Madam Clerk, so we can say that that is under unanimous consent that we are tabling clauses 3 and 4. Okay, so with that then, thank you, Director Cornell, and thank you to our both deputy and our CAO for your assistance in navigating us through that decision making. And we're just a little bit ahead of, we only just recently had a break, so I'd like to at least see where we are in terms of doing items 7D first before lunch is a cold lunch, so it can wait a little bit for us. And so with that, if I could please direct your attention to item 7D, and this is going to be introduced by Director Myers. And it reads that report EDTC CW 1125 industrial development charges holiday in quotations be received, and that staff be directed to prepare the relevant amending bylaws that incorporate a reduction on the industrial portion of non-residential development charges to 0 for 2025 and 2026, and bring forward for council's consideration that staff be directed to return any funds collected since 2025 in the payment for the industrial development charges, which as of July 30th, 2025 was estimated to be less than 25,000, and that staff be directed to start the 2026 development charges bylaw review process before year end, and to fund any expenditures in 2025 from the development charges general government reserve. May I ask for a mover and a seconder? Okay, that's moved by Councillor Boddy, seconded by Councillor Eccles. It's now on the floor for discussion. Welcome, Director Myers.
Thank you very much, Warden. And through you, good afternoon. County Council, it's officially 12 o'clock, so we are in the afternoon. Niall and I are going to tag team this report with you, but I do want to mention that this was really a team effort between Randy and Scott and Niall and I across departmental discussion to get us here today. As you know, non-residential development charges, they were introduced for the very first time in the current bylaw that we have right now. So in 2021, they were approved and they took effect on January 1st, 2022. Because these were brand new charges, they've been in a phased-in approach over this time, beginning in January 2023. At that time, the significant economic pressures that we're seeing politically in our environment, tariff threats, none of that was predicted. And the pressures of the pandemic and post-pandemic recovery were not truly understood at that time either. We're seeing that play out today. Through approval and implementation of the Corporate Strategic Plan and the Economic Development, Tourism and Culture Master Plan, County Council has prioritized economic development and investment readiness across the county, focused first and foremost on the businesses that we have here today who have already invested in our community, and then looking at business that could be attracted and welcoming new investment to this region. So today, the economic environment has shifted dramatically. The market is in a state of perpetual uncertainty. There's instability due to these global forces of the pandemic and tariff threats. So in this environment particularly, our competitive advantage is being challenged. Locally, it is not a new conversation to you either that Grey County lacks significant investment-ready lands. That is something that we are working on through multiple different projects right now. But this lack of supply further compounds the competitiveness of Grey County for industrial growth and new industrial establishment. So while there's little evidence that suggests development charges create a financial barrier for industry to invest or to develop as a whole, these are costs that are within our control as a municipality, whereas other costs of development are beyond our control. So within the current development environment, seeking to proactively review these costs can support investment. It's a demonstration of something that the municipality can control in encouraging new investment in our region and growing that assessment. And you'll notice from that chart that's in this report what that difference looks like between the non-residential, the industrial only portion of that, and then the assessment that comes from these investments, whether they're expansion or attraction. They are significant. This conversation is coming to you today after multiple conversations with industry partners right across the county, some who are here and have been here for a very long time, others who are looking at the county to come for a very first time. So in this current fiscal environment, a move such as a DC relief or a holiday in this case would be viewed as key in respect to investment decisions. And this is especially true when we're working to retain and expand the industry that we have here today, many of whom are dealing with pressures from their home companies who may be interprovincial or American parent companies when trying to forecast their expansion opportunities and where it makes sense to do so. So something like this may help tip the scales, as we would call it, in favor of long-term strategy and decisions being made here in Ontario and in Grey County specifically. We've looked across Western Ontario. We have as group of all economic development directors from Western Ontario wardens, and we meet monthly. And we had a conversation about these charges. 9 of the 15 counties currently have non-residential development charges in place for industrial development, similar to us. 5 include an exemption policy, and others are under review right now having the same conversations, given the environment that we find ourselves in today. Just a note as well, before I turn it over to Niall, that for our member municipalities who have these non-resident industrial charges, this is not an ask for you to make any adjustments locally. This is something that Grey County can do on behalf of all of our municipalities as a region to help spur investment readiness right across without a local impact to you in your ask. So I just wanted to take that off the table in case anyone's thinking we're going to ask any municipalities for a match. That is not what is part of this ask. So I'm going to turn it over to Niall to talk about the how.
Good morning, good afternoon, as we just pointed out, and thank you for the opportunity. If Savannah's the salesperson, I'm the one that comes with the reality check at the back end of this in some respects. So waiving or giving a break and a holiday for development charges doesn't come without cost. The numbers that we've collected over the last couple of years are embedded within the report, $17,000 or just over $17,000 in 2023, and 2024 was 79, just short of $80,000 in these charges that we were collected. And we can't forget that money comes in. So our bylaw has established both a development charge that we need to collect. It's also established the projects that we are aiming to achieve with the money that is collected. And so we do have to find that money from somewhere else to make those projects whole. We believe that can be easily can be accommodated within the existing reserves that we're carrying. And a large piece of this work, as you'll see later on in the report, is around transportation infrastructure. And so we don't believe that any projects need to be put on hold or deferred, that the funding is able to be relieved from other funding sources for this 2-year term. As has been noted, we would advance the development of the next DC bylaw as quickly as possible so that we're able to conclude this conversation. And these conversations are not new to council. You've experienced conversations around how we might be able to influence and enhance development opportunities, how we can increase the competitiveness, and development charges have been part of those conversations in the past. And so staff believe, as was laid out earlier, we're able to provide this holiday. We understand from multiple businesses that this is something which would be helpful and an attraction to Grey County. And so I'm here to stand in support of what's being put in front of you, that we put forward this holiday period and start the next round of development charge studies and background work.
Okay, thank you both. So I'll put it out to council, committee, the whole members, if they have questions. We'll go to Councillor Body.
I don't have a question, just a suggestion. I don't think it needs an amendment of the motion, but I would think it would be great if the county could write to every owner of industrial lands assuming this passes, to everyone that owns industrial lands, fairly soon, telling them of this as a motivation, and so it doesn't wait to leak out, that we actually get that message to people that need to hear it. Thanks.
Thank you for that comment, and I agree. I don't think that needs to be embedded into the motion. And any other comments? We'll go to Councillor Nielsen.
It was a race, Councillor Greg. So going back again to yesterday's conversation about budget and finance, we look at ourselves as how do we cover the cost and expansion of things we're trying to do? Development charges are put in place to help municipalities fund growth through growth. By implementing the holiday here, we are, I understand, trying to get industrial lands built upon, but there's other avenues that make Grey Highlands an attractive place. Land value being one of them. Is probably significantly less here than if you're trying to bank the same land in the GTA or other areas of Ontario. One of the things that when I saw this report, I was interested to kind of hear a staff response. Both the provincial and federal government's election campaigns and comments talked about development charges. They talked about trying to get rid of them. However, both have also said about making municipalities whole. If we remove the development charge already, preemptively, are we losing out on the opportunity if the province and feds try to shut us down? Are we losing an opportunity for money coming from them to cover the costs of the growth? We need to cover the bridges, transportation routes, right? These are costs that we have. There's implications when it comes to losing development charges. And so I guess my first question to staff is, are we risking losing potential funds from both the province and feds who have committed to saying making us whole if the development charges are raised?
We'll go to the CAO.
I think I lost the rock, paper, scissors. Through you, Warden Matrosovs. Great question. At this stage, we have not heard how the province and federal government plans to keep municipalities whole based on any changes as a result of the Development Charges Act that we know there's been several changes over the last few years. What we have heard recently from the province is a bit of a change in approach and direction with respect to development charges, recognizing that there is a purpose for them. As Niall indicated, they help to fund those growth related aspects. I think what staff are bringing forward today is as part of the recommendation, let's start the DC background study review as soon as we can, because we think this is one aspect that we want to look at. But we also think this aligns, as Savannah noted, with our strategic plan, our EDTC master plan. It's another potential layer that we can help to spur further industrial development growth to help attract more employment opportunities within Grey County. That's going to be fundamental as we look at our demographics and as we look at our growth projections. We're going to need workforce age population coming into our communities in order to sustain our communities. And this, we think, is just one added bonus layer that we can potentially offer that's in our control, in our sphere of control at this moment, to be able to help spur some of that. And that's why we're putting forward both the recommendation to look at this as a recommended holiday, but let's advance the DC background study work now, especially given that 2026 is an election year. So we're on tighter windows as well. So this will allow us staff to be able to put out the RFP, hire a consultant, and hit the ground running right at the beginning of Jan 1, 2026 with the DC background study so that we can analyze not just this component, but all the components of our DC background study. Hopefully by then, we may have some further information from the province and federal government in terms of how they anticipate to keep us whole. But at this stage, our recommendation is to put forward that holiday. And I see Niall may have some further comments through your word.
So you, Warden, thank you for that, and thank you for giving me my brain a chance to catch up. So the benefit of the holiday is we're not actually rewriting the bylaw. So the charges still actually exist in the bylaw. So if we ever did have a conversation, they're still embedded. We still have the support in terms of the need. We still have the support in terms of the level, the amount of the money that needs to be collected. This is just a holiday that's being offered temporarily. So.
Thank you very much, Warden Microsoft, for a chance to respond. So for one, as far as I understand it, because Great Highlands did the same thing, we did a development charges holiday for residential builds to encourage residential building. As you stated, the county itself will have to fund those costs. If the DC charge holiday goes through and you see a spur in the next 18 months to the end of when this DC policy or the charges plan and cycles over to the next one, all the money that comes in will have to be recouped and recovered somewhere within the county, be it from one-time funding or something. We have to pay ourselves that money. So there's part of me that thinks if this is the direction county wants to go, wait till the end of the development charge study or do this as part of the next study to remove this industrial so that we're not trying to then pay ourselves, because that's what we'll have to do. If some large-scale industrial development happens, Grey County is going to have to pay itself that money because the policy exists. One. Two, I also find it interesting that the one cycle when this got introduced, we're not even finished that cycle and we're already saying we want this out. And so it seems like there must have been cause, justification, and reasoning why this development charge got put into the study and the plan in the first place. And we're not even through that cycle. And we're saying, let's hurry up and get the cycle started so that we can remove it because we didn't like what we did. So part of me is, have we given it the chance to do what it's supposed to do, which is to help raise development charges to fund the growth? And part of it is the potential cost somewhere in the county to recoup the funds that we're going to miss out on.
Okay, thank you. So we'll go to Councillor Gregg next.
Glad to speak. I don't know if the CAO he had his hand up before I speak.
Okay, CEO before Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Warden Matrosovs. And just to reemphasize what I think Director Myers indicated earlier, at the time when we were introducing and discussing a new non-residential charge, which as Savannah noted is our first crack at this as part of this, we didn't know the outcomes of what the pandemic and what we were anticipating to see in terms of construction costs. We also did not anticipate some of the stuff that's happening south of our border with respect to the economic uncertainty that's been created by tariff threats, etc. So given the current fiscal environment, given that we're trying to help spur some further industrial employment land growth again through our work of our economic development team, as well as all the member municipalities through part of what we call Team Gray, our recommendation is to implement this holiday at this point in time, and then but revisit it and review it as part of the DC background study work, almost in parallel.
Okay, over to Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, and through you, Warden. Really good comments, Councillor Nielsen. Mayor Body would likely support the fact I am not a supporter of development charges at all, and have demonstrated that several times at the lower tier municipality. But I think the time to really, the exactness is when you're doing the study. And once you've adopted the study, that's the template that everyone has to follow. And one missing line that hasn't been spoken yet to is in the last couple of years, or 23 to 24, we're up about 4.5 times in terms of the DC revenue. So there is a multitude of competitive factors that exist in the marketplace, and the pandemic, it's way behind everyone now. So we don't want to look, I mean, 95.23% of the development charges collected from industrial use are going to road and related work. We don't have to replace our roads or our bridges, which are engineered for load capacities for Honda Civics, or Toyota Corollas, or GMC Sonomas. We have these huge costs that we have to undertake, which are driven by large vehicular traffic and trucks. And they service exactly what this conversation is about today. So it's not a large dollar, but I think it is something that just needs to stay in here. We decided as a council that's the template, and that's what they're used for. 95.23% contributes to your roads. And if it's not there, then that 95.23% or 2,479,000 and change is paid for by the driver of the Sonoma, or the driver of the Civic, or the driver of the Corolla. So I think they are purposeful once council has decided they're in there. And I think I don't think we should be supporting this. We take another look at it when the cycle goes through, looking at the DCs.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to Councillor Dobreen.
Thank you, and through you, thank you. I know that we recently didn't support a subclass for affordable housing, and I'm not certain that we are waiving the development charges for affordable builds. Just comparing apples to oranges. And reducing the development charges ultimately comes at a cost, going to be a burden on the taxpayer. Would it be better, rather than to waive the DCs entirely, but to defer the DCs for industrial development pending the DC study that we're going to undertake, that they could be waived or wiped at the conclusion of that, or entered into a payment plan, as opposed to not collecting them at all now or in the future?
So through you, Madam Warden, and thank you for the question. Either one of us could have taken that one, I think. This is around trying to provide some certainty in the landscape. And so one of the challenges with a deferral is a business that might be interested in developing if there was no DC versus a business that was not too worried, wouldn't know what their future costs would be with a deferral. So if we were simply pushing this down the line, it doesn't necessarily send the same message that we're investment ready as the holiday that we're proposing.
Okay, not seeing any further hands. Okay, so we're ready then. We will call the question. It's been moved and seconded and discussed. All those in favor? Okay, I think I'm gonna do a count here. Can you just keep your hands raised, please? And all those opposed? And so that motion is defeated. Okay, and let me just look to the CAO in terms of next steps.
Thank you. Through you, Warden Matrosovs, the final clause in that motion to advance the DC background study review. I was wondering if council may entertain that clause, that motion, so we can advance the DC review as soon as possible.
Okay, I'm just going to confirm with the clerk, because we have technically voted that down because we've already voted it down. So do you need a 2/3 majority to revisit that single clause? Okay, so the clerk is advising that there is something that can be done in terms of that. So we can consider that separately, but just not at this point in time. So we'll have a further conversation. We'll return to it. Okay, and remembering that this is committee of the whole, so we do have council coming up in 2 weeks' time. So, okay, so with that then, that concludes this matter. After lunch, Oh, sorry, Counselor Body?
Could we not just put a motion on the floor right now to reconsider, get our 2/3 vote and move ahead with that?
Just a minute, please. We're just conferring on process. Okay, thank you very much. As we navigate our way through the intricacies and yes, we just wanted to know in terms of the timing. And as I mentioned, this is committee of the whole, so anything can be pulled and reconsidered, can be discussed. I don't want to use that word reconsider, can be discussed further and voted on at council. However, there is a pathway. A motion could be made to reconsider. It would require a 2/3 vote, and then we could then open that topic back up again for a singular vote on that specific item. So Councillor Body, is that your wish?
I was on the losing it.
Yep, good point. So he's just confirmed it does need to be somebody that actually voted on the winning side. So, okay, so I saw Councillor Eccles' hand go up and I saw Councillor Nielsen's hand second. So it is being, Councillor Eccles, can you just articulate for the clerk what it is that you're moving?
Move to reconsider the previous motion. Well, I can't get that. I've got to reconsider the motion. Put it back onto the table. Then we might be able to split it, but to reconsider, I've got to get the whole motion reconsidered. Yeah.
Okay, the clerk is advising it is possible just to open up clause 4 for reconsideration. Okay, and I'll just confirm with the seconder. Seconder, Councillor Nielsen? You are, yeah, okay. So this will require a 2/3 vote that we reconsider, open for reconsideration item 4. And Madam Clerk, we're just going to vote on reconsidering. Then if there's 2/3 vote, then we discuss the actual clause itself and vote on the actual clause itself. Okay, great. And because, yeah, okay. So with that, I'm going to call the vote then for reconsideration of clause 4 only. Reconsideration. How many are in favor? Okay, well, there you go. I didn't have to do much counting there. So that passes, Madam Clerk. So now we are going to entertain that staff be directed to start the 2026 development charges bylaw review process before year end and to fund any expenditures in 2025 from the development charges general government reserve. So that stands on its own. It's been moved by Councillor Dobreen, seconded by Councillor Carlton. Any discussion on that? Yes, Councillor, we'll go to Councillor Gregg and then to Councillor Dobreen.
Thank you. And I don't think it's prudent that council supports that. That was part of a motion that was defeated by council just minutes ago. And in moving forward with such action, you're effectively just spending monies in 2025 that were never budgeted to be spent in 2025. And it's just brought before you as the result of a losing motion. Where it belongs is in 2026 budget considerations.
Okay, we'll go to Councillor Dobreen.
Thank you. Thank you. And through you, I am supportive of beginning the process. We are scheduled to do a development charges review in 2026. Therefore, the monies would be budgeted or allocated in order to do that study. We're required to do that study starting in 2026. This is a matter of 3 months advance. And perhaps through the process, we have to go through an RFP. We have to do all of that. We may not even start it until 2026. I am confident that we would be doing this anyway. We've advanced road projects for $400,000-$500,000 that were earmarked for 2026 and moved them up to 2025 because it made sense to do so.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? We'll go to Councillor Eccles.
And just for clarification, this motion that's here is that it comes out of the development charges general reserve to do this. That's how these are always financed. So even if it was put into the 2026 budget, it would be the revenue to offset this expenditure would be coming from this reserve anyway. So it doesn't have an effect whether it's on 2025 or 2026, comes out of the development charges, the expenditures from there. Am I correct in that?
Through you, Warden, that is correct. The funding source for the development charges review would be from the development charges general government reserve. Just a note as well, and I think the bulk of the work will still be in 2026. What this allows, because we anticipate, say, the 2026 budget may not be approved by bylaw until, say, January of 2026. What this allows us to do would be to advance the RFP work, starting setting up the terms of reference for the steering committee so that we can hit the ground running come January 1st, 2026 with the DC review. So that's what we're anticipating as staff. It buys us that 2-3 month period that we would otherwise lose in the early part of 2026 by doing all that work come when the budget is actually approved. So that's why staff are recommending to still proceed with that particular clause in this motion.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, so I'll just read it out then. We are now voting on that staff be directed to start the 2026 development charges bylaw review process before year end and to fund any expenditures in 2025 from the development charges general government reserve. It's been discussed, moved, seconded. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Okay, thank you. So that concludes that particular item, and that allows us then to pause for lunch, and then afterwards we have we have one more for discussion, then we need to revisit one item from 6 and then move into closed session for 2 other items. So we will adjourn then, Madam Clerk, to reconvene at at 1:15. So we'll look to have everybody back here at the Horseshoe at 1:15. Thank you. Okay, welcome back, County Council. We are going to continue with our open session agenda and for Committee of the Whole. And next up, we have item 7E, and it is recommended that report EDTC CW 0925 regarding Ontario Transit Investment Funding, OTIF, known as OTIF grant, be received, and that staff include the anticipated 2026 county levy requirement of $145,000 in the 2026 draft budget for council consideration, and that the clerk, the warden and clerk be authorized to sign the transfer payment agreement, the TPA, and that the warden and clerk be authorized to sign the applicable partnership agreements with the partners of Bruce County, Dufferin County, and Saugeen Mobility and Regional Transit, also known as SMART. And we will be having Manager Stewart will be introducing that topic. But first of all, let's put it on the floor for discussion. Moved by Councillor Hutchinson and seconded by Councillor Keaveney. It's now on the floor for discussion. Welcome, Manager Stewart.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good afternoon, Council. I'm pleased to be here today to provide an update on the exciting progress we're making towards understanding the potential development of a unified regional transit network across Grey County, Bruce County, Dufferin County, and in partnership with Saugeen Mobility. This initiative builds on previous planning efforts, leveraging past insights and recommendations to develop a seamless, inclusive, and equitable system that meets the needs of all of our diverse regions. Grey County, in collaboration with our regional partners, as mentioned, have successfully secured up to $9.5 million in funding through the Ontario Transit Investment Funding Program. This funding will support the development of a unified regional transit network that reflects the needs of our communities and builds on existing services. The purpose of today's presentation is to update all of you on our key milestones and our timelines, to set early expectations for the work that will be done, and seek your continued support as we explore what is possible. A regional connected transit network has the potential to significantly improve the quality of life of our residents, especially those who rely on public transit for work, education, healthcare, and social connections. Our key milestones to date have been: on June 6, 2025, the province announced the $9.5 million in funding to support this project. On June 12th, Council approved the report EDTC CW 0525 to accept federal funding and initiate a proof of concept study. On August the 14th, 2025, a request for proposal was released to engage qualified vendors to design and cost a regional transit network. August 2025, that transfer payment agreement was received from the province and staff have had a chance to review it. September the 3rd, Wellington County decided to join our RFP process with a focus on integrating along Highway 6, which is our Guelph to Owen Sound transit route, and look at Highway 9 corridors and into neighboring communities. The study will explore how Wellington County's RideWell program will also be able to be leveraged to enhance our existing services and our regional connectivity. On September 19th, last Friday, the RFP did close. Our next steps will be to award successful bidder. And then between October 2025 and March 2026, we will work closely with the successful bidder to develop a proof of concept study and then bring that back to you in the spring of 2026 for consideration. All throughout that study, though, you will have the opportunity to be an active participant and be a stakeholder and let us know what you think, of course. About the proof of concept study, the RFP was developed collaboratively with our partnering counties and Saugeen Mobility. Wellington County was later brought in, as just mentioned. The study will give staff and council the information necessary to make informed decisions about the future potential of a unified regional transit system. Once the study is completed, all the information will be presented to you for your consideration. This information will outline how funding would be allocated, the exact costs for years 2 through 5, the service levels we could achieve according to different levels of budget, and forecast of potential costs beyond the grant period. How will we sustain this long term? Importantly, no funds will be spent on a new system until council has reviewed the study and the findings and approved the final plan in 2026. So what can you expect to receive from this study? The study components include community and provider engagement, a needs assessment and a justification report, governance modeling and legislative compliance, transit network and service plan options, fleet planning, a fully costed financial plan, including fare structures and sustainability, a comprehensive review of Saugeen Mobility's infrastructure and their operations, and a software integration for SMART and home and community support services to facilitate streamlined bookings, eliminate double dispatches, and improve coordination. The study is expected to take approximately 6 months, followed by presentations to all of you back in the spring of 2026, sorry. At this time, I'd like to pass it over to Savannah, and she will speak about the specifics of the OTIF grant and outline the next steps in more detail.
Hello, after lunch now. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the OTIF grant in particular, but I do want to note that we do have a closed session component available with this report so that we can talk in more detail about that negotiating potential with the province. So if that's something that you decide we can go into, I will start, but then we can move into that if everybody's comfortable. So as Stephanie mentioned, the TPA, it was formally received on August 25th. So after the announcement was made. The budget schedule, you'll notice in Schedule D, it outlines a year-by-year breakdown from years 1 through 5. What is interesting about this is that because no formal decision has been made on the implementation of a unified transit network, the numbers in years 2 through 5 are estimates. They are the best estimates that we have to date, and we can talk a little bit about that as part of the negotiations and closed. So we have had many conversations with the province, and Steph has a great relationship with them. So it's really nice to be able to get immediate answers through this process. They have confirmed that these financial figures in 2 through 5 are purely estimates and an upset limit in terms of provincial funding. So those true estimates will not be understood until we do the study. So this is very backwards to how we would normally ask you to be looking at a TPA, but that's something that we can discuss further as well. As Stephanie said, there'll be no decision on implementation or what those costs would look like until we actually know what the program could look like and what the costs could look like. The TPA does outline that we can change year-over-year funding through amendments if both parties agree. That means that we can look at mutually beneficial agreements once the plan is finalized. And these two factors, they enable council the flexibility to be able to accept the funding now and then complete the study and then come back for follow-up discussion. So if you are okay with it, we would love to be able to talk a little bit more detail about those negotiations, but I'm going to pass it back over to the warden.
Okay, thank you very much, Director Myers and Manager Stewart. So as the director has identified, anything that delves into a topic that really should be saved for closed session, hold on to those thoughts. Are there any discussion or questions that need to be asked here in open session at this point in time? Councillor Eccles.
Thank you. Through the budget process at the bottom, it says other municipal contributions. Is that the part about Wellington coming in, or would that be the town of, for the municipality of Grey Highlands contributing?
Thank you for that question. As you know, SMART is a partner in this. So all of those budget lines around gas tax, municipal contribution, and revenues are all based on SMART's current operations as a partner in this.
Councillor Dubreen.
Thank you. And through you, I can't recall what the contribution is from the other counties in this, but the levy requirement from the county is 145,000. I'm going to presume that they're equally participating. The fourth clause doesn't include Wellington County at this time, but the staff report references that. So if it's a closed session discussion, then we can look at that.
Okay, so we're going to hold on to that thought. Okay, any other questions that need to be asked here in open? Okay, all right. So we do have the motion that has been moved and seconded is on the floor, and we do know that we will have a further item later in the agenda. So seeing no further hands, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Oh, sorry. Oh, hold on a moment. Okay, let's table the vote on this until we come back out. There may be further open session discussion prior to opening, to voting in open until after the closed session. So we will table I will not call the vote at this point in time. We do have one more item to deal with in open before we can go into closed, however, because we did pull item 6C, or are you going to suggest we do that after? Yeah. Okay, I can tell when she's leaning in on me, she's got a thought. Okay, so to keep the continuity of the discussion going, let's go to the closed session matters, and we will not forget about the item that we pulled from the consent agenda before everybody leaves. So with that, looking at section 8, it's recommended that the committee of the whole does now go into closed session pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to discuss, number 1, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board. And there are 2 items cited. Number 1, negotiations regarding investment readiness, and number 2, negotiations with the province of Ontario. So with that, then I will ask for a mover. Moved by Councillor DeBreen, seconded by Councillor Carlton to go into closed session. Any discussion? All those in favor?